You're marrying him tomorrow, but tonight, you branded yourself with my name. That's what I said out loud as I watched the footage play on loop, over and over, trying to convince myself it was real. But it was. The timestamp didn't lie. It was 11:47 p.m., the night before the wedding. Alvina sat in a low-lit tattoo parlor, her hands clenched tight around her knees, the hem of her white hoodie resting above her waist. The tattoo artist asked her one last time, "Are you absolutely sure?" She nodded, voice soft, but steady. "Yes, just like the sketch. Joseph, left side, close enough to hide, but not forget." He bent down to start the needle. Her breath hitched for a second, but she didn't cry. I saw her bite her lip and glance at her reflection in the studio mirror. Her hair was messy, her eyeliner smudged, but her eyes, those dark, stubborn eyes, held the weight of every unsaid word we left between us. The artist paused again. "You know this is permanent, right?" "I hope so," she whispered. I should have deleted the video. I should have thrown my phone at the wall and erased everything I still felt for her, but instead, I sat there in silence, the glow of my screen lighting up a memory I never asked to relive. Alvina. 3 years of history in one name. I hadn't seen her in 8 months, not since she told me she was engaged to someone else. His name? James. I remembered how she said it like it was just a word, not a betrayal. "He's different, Joseph. He doesn't expect me to be anything I'm not." Funny, I never did either. I met James once, back when Alvina and I were still together. He was the kind of guy who shook your hand too tight, like he needed to prove something. The kind who laughed a little too loud and stood a little too close. I didn't like him, not because I sensed anything romantic between them, but because he looked at her like she was a prize, not a person. "Alv," Ina said I was paranoid. "I chose you," she told me. "Don't make me regret it." But regret found its way in any way. She left a month later. The last message she sent me before vanishing read, "Please don't hate me, I just need a life that doesn't hurt." And now she had James, a wedding, a future that didn't include me. Except, she had my name carved into her skin the night before it all. What does that say? That she missed me, that she wanted a way back, that she wanted to punish herself before stepping into a life she didn't fully want. Or maybe it meant nothing at all. Maybe it was just guilt. But then, why send the footage? Why make sure I saw it before her big day? Because she knew what I'd do. And I did exactly what she expected. I sent it to James. No caption, no context, just the raw clip. And I waited. 1 hour passed, then another. At 3:13 a.m., my phone lit up, a call from an unknown number. I answered in silence. "Is this Joseph?" It was James, his voice cracked at the edges like a mirror already spidered. "Yes." "Why? Why would she do this?" "You'll have to ask your bride." He didn't say anything after that. I heard his breathing, heavy and uneven, a slow inhale, a sharp exhale, then the line went dead. The next morning, I got a text from a mutual friend. "Wedding's off, she didn't show. Did you do something?" I stared at the message and didn't reply. What was I supposed to say? That I'd gifted the groom a recording of his bride pledging herself to the man she left behind? That I watched her tremble as my name was linked into her forever and chose to burn down her new beginning with it? Maybe I did it out of revenge, maybe I did it out of love. But the truth? I did it because she wanted me to. No one gets a secret tattoo of their ex the night before their wedding and sends them the video by mistake. She wanted me to ruin it. She just didn't have the courage to do it herself. My name is Joseph Callahan, and I don't believe in clean endings, not anymore, not after Alvina. I used to think life followed some unspoken blueprint. You work hard, love deep, and one day everything makes sense. You grow into your dreams like vines wrapping around steady pillars, but sometimes you're the pillar, and the person you love grows away from you anyway. I met Alvina Rhodes 5 years ago at a wedding, not ours of course. She was wearing a black dress that didn't quite fit the tone of the event, sipping a glass of water like she hated every second of being there. I was the best man, delivering a speech no one listened to. After the formalities, she leaned over and whispered, "Your toast was 15 seconds too long." I grinned, "And your dress says funeral. So I guess we're both crashing the wrong party." She didn't laugh, she just raised an eyebrow and said, "Buy me a drink if you're going to flirt like that." That was Alvina, sharp, unapologetic, impossible to ignore. By the end of the night, we were sitting on the back steps of the venue, eating leftover cupcakes and talking about how much we hated weddings. She told me she hated tradition, hated expectations. Said love, real love, shouldn't come with toasts or timelines. I told her I'd never felt the kind that burned enough to make me want to stand still. She looked at me with those stubborn, haunting eyes and said, "Then maybe we're both due for a disaster." We were 26 when we started dating. I was 2 years into launching my second startup, a marketing firm that didn't even have office chairs yet. Alvina worked freelance, editorial consulting, some branding gigs, an occasional podcast. She didn't like being pinned down. That should have been my first clue. But she liked being around me. Said I made chaos feel breathable. I used to wake up to her humming in the kitchen, wrapped in one of my hoodies, sipping black coffee like the bitterness grounded her. We lived in a shoebox apartment above a laundromat, but to me, it was heaven. We fought, we always did. Alvina didn't believe in holding back. When something bothered her, she'd throw it on the table, sharp edges and all. Me, I processed slowly. I'd retreat into silence, let things simmer before I reacted. That made her furious. "You freeze when things get messy," she told me once, "like you're afraid to be ugly in front of me." And maybe I was. But love isn't always about compatibility, sometimes it's about gravity. You get pulled into someone and can't remember what it felt like before they existed in your orbit. I loved her, I still do in a way I can't quite name. 3 years in, we moved into a bigger place, I hired actual staff, she launched a digital content studio with 2 friends, we talked about buying property, maybe starting something together, professionally, personally, whatever made sense. People started asking when we'd get engaged. We laughed it off at first, then started dodging the question it's together. Alvina would say, "If we ever get married, it won't be white and gold, it'll be black and fire." But something shifted that 4th year. It was subtle, fewer spontaneous texts. Her phone began to live on Do Not Disturb more often. We still shared a bed, but our backs began facing opposite directions. Then came James Archer. I met him at one of her client events, a panel on digital disruption. James was a speaker. Confident, charismatic, smirking through every sentence like he was performing a TED Talk. He talked about user behavior and dopamine loops. Alvina laughed at all his metaphors. I noticed her leaning in just a little too much. Afterward, she introduced us. "Joseph, this is James, my partner." She didn't say boyfriend, she didn't say the love of her life, she said partner. Like we were co-owners of a firm. James shook my hand with a grip like he was trying to bend my fingers backward. "Pleasure, heard a lot about you." I didn't like him, not because I was jealous, but because I recognized something in his eyes, something ravenous, something opportunistic. He looked at Alvina like a challenge, not a person, but I kept my mouth shut. A month later, Alvina and I had our worst fight. She said I was controlling, that I expected her to bend into a shape that didn't fit her. I told her I was tired of competing with ghosts and question marks. We didn't speak for 3 days. When we finally sat down, she didn't cry, she didn't plead, she just said, "I think I need to figure out who I am without you." And then she was gone. I didn't chase her. Maybe I should have. Maybe not chasing her was the biggest mistake I've ever made. She moved out a week later, left the keys in an envelope labeled sorry. I stopped listening to music after that, even songs without lyrics felt too loud. Months passed, I buried myself in work, I deleted her number, I refused to Google her name, but still, I knew the moment she got engaged. Someone sent me a picture. Alvina, in a silver dress, holding James's hand, her eyes are not quite smiling. It felt like an obituary. Not for her, for me. And I would have left it alone, I swear I would have. Until that video arrived. The night before her wedding. Alvina. In a tattoo chair. Saying my name is like a prayer. Getting it inked above her hip like a brand. Not because she missed me. Not because she wanted me back. But because she never really let go. And now, neither had I. The betrayal didn't arrive as a slap, it came dressed as silence, small, unremarkable silences that built their own language. The first time I noticed something was wrong, Alvina didn't cancel our Friday night plans, she just forgot we had any. "I thought you said Saturday," she claimed, standing in the kitchen, keys in one hand, halfway out the door in a silk blouse I hadn't seen before. "I said Friday, last week." You nodded, twice. She blinked, smiled faintly, and said, "Can we rain check? James needs help with a pitch deck and I..." "You're canceling on me for James?" She paused. Not guilty, not apologetic, just blank. "It's not like that, Joseph, it's work." Work, that word became her shield, her knife, her distance. I let it go, but the silences kept coming. Texts left on read, calls declined mid-ring, dead-eyed yawns during our dinners. When I asked what was going on, she said, "You're reading too much into things." But one night, her laptop chimed while she was in the shower. I wasn't snooping, I wasn't trying to be that guy. But when your girlfriend's screen lights up at 1:17 a.m. and it says, "James, you're still wearing that lipstick I like?" my heart didn't just drop, it shattered on every bounce down. I didn't open the message, I didn't scroll up, I just sat on the bed, fists clenched. When she walked back in, towel in hair, fresh cotton shirt brushing her thighs, I didn't ask her anything, I didn't say a word. And that's when I knew. She noticed the tension instantly. "You okay?" "Yeah." "You're lying." "I am." She froze mid-step. "Joseph?" I turned to her, calm, too calm. "Is there something you want to tell me?" Her expression didn't shift, not immediately, but the flicker of guilt cracked through. "I kissed him once," she whispered. "It didn't mean anything, it was after the event, and we'd been drinking, and..." I laughed, once, a sharp, ugly sound. "You kissed him once?" She nodded. "Just once?" She nodded again. "It was a mistake." "How long ago?" 2 weeks. 2 weeks, that was before our anniversary, that was before she told me she wanted to take a weekend off to be alone with her thoughts. That was the weekend she ghosted me entirely, only to reappear with a tan and a new playlist titled Breathe Again. I could feel my pulse in my teeth. "You said it was nothing," I murmured. "It was," she said. "It is, I love you, not him." "Then why did you kiss him?" "Because I wanted to feel something else, just for a second, just to know if I still..." "You kissed him to test if you still loved me?" She didn't answer, she didn't have to. And that was the moment everything inside me cracked. But I didn't yell, I didn't accuse, I simply asked her to leave. She cried, I didn't. She packed her things in silence, I watched her fold the sweater I gave her last Christmas with trembling hands. At the door, she paused. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me." "Then why wasn't I enough?" No answer. She left. Weeks turned into months. I deleted our pictures, changed my sheets, blocked James on everything. But Alvina never reached out, not once. And I convinced myself she'd moved on, until that photo surfaced online. A soft engagement shoot. Alvina and James under golden hour light. She was wearing a white silk dress, off-shoulder, barefoot on a beach. Her smile was the same one she used when she lied. She looked happy, but I wasn't. I stared at the photo for 10 straight minutes, trying to see if it was real, if she'd really done it. If the girl who once held my hand during panic attacks, who left post-it notes on my fridge that said, "Breathe idiot," and "You're still the best thing in any room," had truly chosen someone else. The comments under the post were all fire and worship. Couple goals. Power duo. They're so in love, it hurts. Yeah, it hurt all right. But I didn't comment, I didn't like it, didn't reach out. I told myself I'd healed. Until 3 days before her wedding. That's when I got the envelope. No return address, just my name, Joseph Callahan, scrawled across the front in black ink. Inside was a flash drive, no message, no explanation. I plugged it into my laptop. The video was raw, one take, no cuts. Alvina in a tattoo chair, hair pulled back, breathing shallow. The artist asked, "You want to go over this one more time?" She nodded. Joseph, left side, just like the sketch. When the needle hit her skin, she flinched, but it didn't stop. She winced, bit her lip, clenched her jaw. And when it was done, she looked into the camera, right into it, like she knew I'd be watching. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Then the screen went black. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't eat the next day. I watched the video 7 times, memorized every breath, every twitch, every second her voice trembled around my name. Why would she do that? Why brand herself with my name before marrying someone else? Was it guilt, a last-minute act of masochism, or something deeper? I didn't know. But I knew one thing: James needed to see it. He needed to know what he was stepping into. Because I wasn't going to be her dirty little memory anymore. So I sent it. No note, no signature. Just the video. Let her future husband decide what to do with the truth. I never imagined I'd become the man who replays a 5-minute video to torture himself. But for 3 nights after I sent the footage to James, I did exactly that. Over and over again. Watching Alvina's lips tremble when she said my name, watching her flinch when the needle touched her skin, watching her eyes, heavy, haunted, tired. I kept telling myself it was closure, that I was dissecting the moment so I could finally let it go. But I wasn't. I was searching. For guilt, for regret, for love, for anything that could explain why she'd come back to me this way, silently, secretly, painfully. And worse, why she still haunted me after everything. The first time I met Alvina, she made me feel like I had to earn her attention every second. She wasn't easy, she wasn't soft, she came with fire in her lungs and a storm behind her eyes. But when she chose you, it felt like the universe bent slightly in your favor. Now? Now she'd chosen someone else, but marked herself with my name. How do you reconcile that? How does a person both walk away and refuse to let go in the same breath? It didn't help that the world kept spinning like nothing had happened. I'd walk into meetings, present quarterly growth stats, negotiate vendor contracts. Meanwhile, inside, I was unraveling. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat without feeling like something was stuck in my throat. I'd sit in my apartment, staring at her old tea mug still sitting on the shelf. I didn't even like chamomile, but I hadn't thrown it away. I told myself it was just a cup, but I knew better. Every object became a trigger: the blanket she used to curl under on Sundays, the hoodie she always stole from me when it rained, the book she never finished on my nightstand, still dog-eared on page 147. I should have burned it all, but I couldn't. Because some part of me was still hoping she'd walk through the door again. Even after I gave her husband the match. Even after I lit the fire. It's not rational, it's not logical, but heartbreak isn't supposed to be. I started keeping my phone on silent. Not because I was expecting her to call, but because I didn't want to hear it if she did. Every vibration made my heart race, every unknown number made my palms sweat. When no calls came, the silence was louder than any ringtone. One night, I found myself at our old bench, the one by the river trail where we used to sit in autumn, drink coffee, and talk about everything and nothing. I sat there for 2 hours. People walked past me, dogs barked, cars honked in the distance. I just sat still, the cold seeping into my coat, trying to feel something that wasn't pain. And then, for the first time in a while, I remembered how she used to say my name, not the way she said it in the video, not heavy with apology, but light, teasing, playful. Joseph, she'd say, stretching out the syllables when I made a dumb joke or forgot to take the laundry out. It gutted me, not because I missed her, but because I didn't know how long it would take before that version of her disappeared from my memory completely. I was losing her all over again, in fragments this time, first her voice, then she laughed, then the way she used to look at me like I was her home. And I hated that she had control over that, even now. Some nights, I'd wake up in a sweat, swearing I'd heard her crying. I hadn't. It was just the echo of guilt I hadn't named yet. Because deep down, I wasn't just mourning the woman I lost. I was mourning the man I used to be with her. The version of myself who believed we were unbreakable. The man who thought love could fix anything, as long as it was real enough. But love wasn't a shield, it wasn't enough to protect me from her choices, and it wasn't enough to stop me from making mine. I began seeing her in strangers. A glimpse of dark hair, a certain laugh, a crooked smile in a bookstore. And every time, my chest clenched. Not because I thought it was her, but because for half a second, I hoped it was. I knew James had called off the wedding. That much was confirmed by our mutual friend, Della, who messaged me out of nowhere. Della. I heard what happened. Are you okay? Me. Define okay? Della. You? Look like you haven't slept since college. Me. Thanks, I was going for emotionally hollow but functional. Della. Nailed it. She made me laugh, even when I didn't want to. The next day, she showed up at my place with takeout and a bottle of whiskey. Eat, or I'm leaving it all here and telling everyone you drink straight from the bottle with no food like a broken poet. We sat on the floor, ate in silence. Then she looked at me and asked, "Do you hate her?" I didn't answer right away. Because the truth was, I didn't. And I wanted to. I wanted to blame her for every sleepless night, for every time I caught myself missing someone who left without looking back. But how do you hate the person you still dream about? I looked Della in the eye and said, "No, I don't. I hate that I don't." She nodded. Didn't say anything for a while. Then she murmured, "She might have loved you, Joseph, but maybe not in a way that knows how to stay." And I think that was the first time anyone had said it out loud. Alvina didn't leave because she stopped loving me. She left because she didn't know how to hold it. Because her love was a firework, beautiful, explosive, but never meant to last. And mine was a candle, steady, patient, always burning in the dark. We were never going to make it. Not in this world, not with who we were. And yet, she tattooed my name. She bled for it. She immortalized something we never even got to finish, and that hurt more than anything. Because love that ends makes sense. But love that lingers, that's the kind that ruins you quietly. That's the kind that makes you watch a video at 3 a.m. wondering why closure tastes like grief. And why the person who left you still lives under your skin, just like their ink lives under theirs. A week after the fallout, just when I thought the dust had finally settled, I received an envelope. No sender, no stamps, just like last time. But this one wasn't handwritten, it was printed. Sharp font, cold, businesslike. Inside was a folded photo, glossy, high resolution. It showed Alvina sitting on a park bench, one hand clutching her stomach, the other shielding her face from the camera. Next to her was James, not beside her, not holding her, but screaming at her. His arm raised, mid-motion, not to strike, but close. The rage in his eyes was unmistakable. Behind them, a woman with a stroller was frozen mid-step, watching the scene unfold. I flipped the photo over. On the back, a single sentence was typed. "This is what she chose after you." There was no signature, but I didn't need one. I knew who sent it. James, or someone close to him. Maybe a friend, maybe a handler, someone who wanted me to see the carnage. I stared at the image until the edges started to curl from the heat of my grip. Why now? Why show me this? Was it supposed to make me feel vindicated? Angry? Pity? I didn't know what I felt. Only that I couldn't look away from her face. She looked afraid. Not dramatic, not performative, just cornered. Like a person realizing, too late, that she'd stepped into the wrong story and couldn't rewrite the ending. I showed the photo to no one. Not even Della. But that night, I drove to the river trail, same bench, same chill in the air. "No, he didn't show up," I snapped. "You opened the door." Tears sprang to her eyes. I know, and I've hated myself every day since. I didn't comfort her, I didn't touch her. I just watched her break, word by word. She wiped her face. "Do you want to know why I sent you that video?" "I already know," I said. "You wanted to sabotage yourself." "No," she said quietly. "I wanted you to stop me." "What?" "I wanted you to come. To stop the wedding. To remind me I had another choice." I shook my head. "You don't tattoo someone's name as a love letter. That was a cry for punishment." "Maybe it was both," she said. I knew what I was walking into. James never hid who he was. But I thought if I married someone who didn't love me fully, it would make me forget how much I ruined being loved by someone who did. I looked away. The ache in my chest wasn't from anger anymore. It was grief, For both of us. For what we'd become. For the version of her that used to sleep on my shoulder during long drives. For the version of me that used to believe we were unstoppable. She pulled something from her bag, a stack of Polaroids. "Here," she said, handing them to me. "He didn't just send you that photo, he's been stalking me, tracking where I go, who I talk to." I flipped through the images. Coffee shops, grocery stores, even the alley behind her apartment. All with timestamps, all from a distance. "He has cameras in my place," she said, barely audible. "I found one inside my bathroom vent. Jesus Christ." "I tried to leave 2 nights ago. He took my phone, smashed it, said if I ran, he'd leak everything, including the video I sent you." My stomach turned. "He has the tattoo footage?" I asked. She nodded. "He found the backup on my old tablet. I didn't even know it was synced." "So he mailed it to me as blackmail?" "No," she said. "He mailed it to you so you'd hate me completely, so I'd had it. But nowhere to crawl back to." I was quiet for a long time. Finally, I asked, "Why are you here?" Alvina looked up with swollen eyes. "Because you're the only person who ever looked at me like I was enough, even when I wasn't. Do you want me to take you in?" "No," she said. "I want you to help me disappear." Silence. I sat beside her. No words, no promises. But for the first time since she left, I realized I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted rescue, for her, for me, for whatever pieces of us were still buried under the ruin. This wasn't a story about heartbreak anymore, it was something darker, and it wasn't over yet. I thought the worst had already happened. But nothing prepares you for the moment a man you despise walks into your apartment like he still owns something you care about. It was raining when it happened, not dramatic thunderstorm rain, just a steady drizzle, the kind that seeps into everything slowly, quiet, unforgiving. Alvina had been staying in my spare room for 5 days, no touching, no romantic conversation, just safety. I made her tea, I gave her silence, she slept with the door locked, and I never asked for the key. She was skittish, paranoid, always checking windows, glancing at her phone like it might bite. I didn't ask questions, I just watched, until James showed up. It was 3:42 p.m., I was in the kitchen. She was folding laundry in the living room, humming something soft, something familiar. Then the buzzer rang. I checked the panel. James, umbrella in one hand, phone in the other, looking up at the camera with that smug, rehearsed smile, the one I'd seen him wear during his product launches and fake charity galas. I didn't buzz him in, but the building door opened anyway. He had the code. I turned to Alvina, her face had gone pale. "He's here," she said flatly. I stepped toward the door. "Lock yourself in the room, now." "Joseph?" "I'm not asking." She obeyed. I opened the door just as James raised his fist to knock. "Joseph," he said, like we were old friends catching up. "Leave." He tilted his head. "That's not how you greet your ex-fiancée's fiancé." "You mean the one she left before the ceremony?" His smirk tightened. "I'm here to talk to her," he said. "She doesn't want to talk to you." "Let her say that." "She already did. Every day she stays away from you." James took a step forward. I didn't move. He leaned in slightly. "You think you're the hero here? You think she's some damsel you're protecting?" "I think she's finally waking up from the nightmare you created." He laughed, soft and venomous. "Let me tell you something about Alvina," he said. "She likes being ruined, she just doesn't want to admit it." I clenched my jaw. "And you like ruining things to feel important." "She sent you the video, didn't she?" he sneered. "You think that was about love? No, that was guilt. That was a weakness, and now you're addicted to it, just like I was." "You don't know a damn thing about love," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "But I know what she looks like when she says your name while I'm inside her." That's when I punched him, not out of rage, out of clarity. His body hit the wall hard, he dropped the umbrella, blood trickled from his nose, he stared up at me, stunned. "You ever say something like that again," I said, low and calm, "and I'll make sure no one can recognize your face again." He wiped the blood with the back of his hand, eyes wide with a mixture of hatred and respect. "She'll come back to me," he said. "She always does." "No," came a voice behind me. "Alvina." Her hair was tied up, no makeup, barefoot in a hoodie that used to be mine, but her voice was sharp, clear. "I won't come back." James looked at her like a cornered animal. "You think he's different? You think he won't get bored of you? Wait until you stop being interesting, then he'll leave too." Alvina walked past me, stood directly in front of James. "No," she said. "Joseph doesn't need me to be a mess to feel powerful." James laughed bitterly. "Then why did he send me the video?" She turned to me. I didn't flinch. "I did," I said. Her eyes widened. James stared between us, stunned. "Wait. You gave it to him?" "I wanted you to see what you broke," I said. "I wanted you to know exactly who you'd never fully have." James looked like someone had slapped him with the truth. He stepped back, shook his head. "This isn't over." Alvina lifted her chin. "Yes, James. It is." He left. Didn't slam the door. Didn't yell. Just left like a man who finally saw the wreckage of his own making, and for the first time in years, the air felt light. Alvina didn't say anything for a while. Then, quietly, she said, "You lied." I turned. "About what?" "You told me you didn't send the video." "I didn't," I said. "Until after you sent it to me, after you branded yourself with something you already walked away from." I wasn't thinking clearly. "You were thinking clearly enough to find a tattoo shop at midnight." She winced. "I thought it would make the guilt go away." "Did it?" She shook her head. "No. It made it permanent." We stood there in silence, two people surrounded by emotional debris. Finally, I asked, "Why now?" She shrugged. "Because James made it real. He made the regret impossible to run from. Every time he touched me, I thought of you. Every time he screamed, I remembered how quiet you used to be when you were hurt." I sat down on the couch. "And what do you want now?" She sat beside me. "I don't know," she admitted. "Peace, maybe. Forgiveness, if you still have any left." I looked at her, really looked at her. She wasn't the same woman I'd fallen for, but I wasn't the same man either. I had sharper edges now. I knew how to protect myself. I didn't mistake chaos for passion anymore. "I don't know if I can forgive you fully," I said honestly. She nodded. "That's fair. But I'm glad you finally told the truth." She smiled faintly. "You were always the only one I couldn't lie to for long." I didn't smile back, but I didn't push her away either. That night, I slept on the couch. She slept in the spare room. But in the morning, the first thing I saw was her name on a post-it by the coffee maker. "Thank you, I'm sorry." It wasn't a promise. It wasn't a plea. It was just the truth. And after everything, it was enough. For now. Alvina left the next morning. Not with tears, not with drama. She simply walked into the kitchen, handed me the spare keys, and said, "I need to figure out who I am outside of the mess I created." I nodded. No lectures, no romantic goodbye, just truth, finally unwrapped of guilt, and then she was gone. I didn't follow, I didn't watch her from the window. I poured myself a coffee, sat at the table, and listened to the silence like it was an answer I'd been waiting years to hear. That should have been the end, but it wasn't. Because James didn't let it be. 3 days later, an anonymous Instagram account started tagging my company's official page with screenshots. Not of me, not of Alvina, but of the video. Blurred, cropped, edited, still recognizable. The caption under each post? One word, branded. At first, I ignored it, but then clients began asking questions. Then my business partner called me at midnight, his voice taut. "Joseph, either this stops now, or we lose sponsors." The photos hadn't gone viral yet, but they were climbing, and James was behind it. This wasn't about Alvina anymore. It was about pride, about control, about a man who couldn't stand being rejected and exposed. He wanted me to burn, but I didn't react, I planned. Because sometimes revenge isn't loud, sometimes it's strategic, clean, legal, sometimes it's permanent. James had made a mistake the moment he thought I was just another broken ex. What he didn't know was, I kept receipts. 3 years ago, when Alvina started her media company, she and James had asked me to do a favor, build their internal analytics infrastructure. I did it for free, as a friend, as a partner. What James never realized was that I still had root-level access to their server, and while I never misused it, I never forgot I had it either. I opened the back door quietly. And what I found? Glorious. James wasn't just running a company, he was inflating numbers, faking user engagement, buying fake followers for brand clients and charging triple. It was fraud, on every screen. He'd built a reputation on lies, and now I had all the proof. I didn't send it to the police. I sent it to his investors. All of them. Each received a sleek envelope, black paper, gold wax seal, no name, just a thumb drive inside. I didn't attach a note. I let the evidence speak. The fallout was swift. In 72 hours, James lost 3 of his biggest clients. His name was quietly removed from his own company's website. One of his angel investors sued for breach of contract, and on the 4th morning, the news broke publicly. Tech star James Archer, under investigation for financial misrepresentation. I didn't comment, I didn't like the posts, I didn't speak to reporters. But I did one thing. I sent him one message. You branded her with shame, I branded you with truth. We're not the same. He didn't reply. But I saw his public apology on Instagram, written in gray text over a black background. To anyone I've hurt, I am deeply sorry, I'm seeking help. Classic. Alvina messaged me that night. Alvina. Was it you? Me. Does it matter? Alvina. He's finished. Me. He was finished the day you left. She didn't say thank you, and I didn't expect her to. This wasn't about her anymore, it was about me. Reclaiming the version of myself that used to bend for love, even when it broke my spine. Reclaiming my name. 1 week later, I got an email. Subject line, speaking invitation, TEDx Amsterdam, the topic, emotional branding, digital reputation. Poetic, right? I accepted. My closing line at the talk? Sometimes the loudest message isn't what you post, it's what you erase. The room stood up, applauded, but even in that moment of victory, I wasn't thinking about the crowd, I was thinking about the tattoo and whether Alvina would ever remove it. Maybe she already had. Or maybe she wouldn't. Maybe, years from now, someone else would see it and ask her, who's Joseph? And she'd smile faintly, look away, and say, just someone who gave me the ending I deserved. Either way, I'd made peace with it. Because love doesn't always end in marriage. Sometimes, it ends in clarity, and sometimes, revenge isn't about fire or fury, it's just a man standing in the ashes, finally untouched by the flames.